Hi everybody and welcome to mob spawning basics. I just want to do a little basic recap of mob spawning and um, how mob spawning well basically works, and maybe touch on simulation distance. I've received a lot of questions about where your AFK spot must be on your farm and how do you mob proof or what do you mob proof. So we're just going to touch up on a few things. Um, let's first go have a look at the one big change that came in was light level. So let me just switch this on. Now as you can see, we've got a torch here in the center which indicates the light levels. You see it starts with 14 and goes down all the way to 1. So if a mob can spawn on these two blocks, because it's got a 0 light level, so anything within 14 blocks around your torch, or depending on the type of light giving item that you use, like lanterns or sea lanterns, things like that, all give you different light levels. But your torch, your common one that everybody uses, is up to 14. So you don't have to place your torches so close to each other like we used to do in the old days, every couple of blocks. So you can go 14 blocks apart and cover a much wider area. Now, when it comes to mobs spawning and you want to spawn proof, these are some of the common things that we usually use to do it. So glass, leaves, slabs, buttons, and pressure plates. And in some cases, you can even use water. So if you create a perimeter, you dig a very big hole and you're not sure what you want to put slabs or glass leaves at the bottom to prevent mobs, because mobs can't spawn on bedrock. So for instance, this is a test world I'm in. This is just bedrock, so no mobs can spawn here at all. But if you dig a perimeter where you want to decorate the bottom, then some people use water. Otherwise, you can use one of these. But if it's completely bedrock, you don't need to spawn proof it unless there are blocks in between the bedrock where they still can spawn. But that's a choice up to you. A few questions some people asked me. One topic is your minimum spawn radius where a mob can spawn from you is 24 blocks, regardless whether you're playing on Java or Bedrock or whatever device. Minimum 24. After 24 blocks, mobs can spawn. Now, all depending on your simulation distance, the area they spawn in and despawn again. Now, I'm going to link two videos that I've made previously. Goes in more detail regarding simulation distance and mob spawning as well. You can go have a look at those, and you can see exactly the different radius that mobs spawn and despawn. One question I also had was your AFK spot from your farm. Now, from testing and things that I've done before, I believe your AFK spot should include your entire farm, but depending on your simulation distance. So you got to remember your AFK spot is got to be at least say 24-25 blocks away from where the mobs spawn, but at the same time depending on your simulation distance. So I'm going to show you guys something just now with this mob farms that I made here. And obviously your light level must be 0. So things have changed a bit where people use nether portals in their farms to increase the rate. So as soon as the mob spawns, it goes through a nether portal, the mob cap opens up for another mob. So the more mobs can spawn quicker and more drops in your farm. Another question I had was mob spawners. On all the platforms, it's 16 blocks away. Any mob spawner that you find down in the caves or wherever, got to be at least 16 blocks away in order for the mob spawner to activate. And then you've got to have, say, 4 block distance at least minimum from the spawner for the mobs to spawn, especially with spiders, because their spawn area is 4 blocks or more for a spider to spawn. So you've got to at least have a 4 gap space around your spawner in order for them to spawn. And you need to build your farm according to the mob that you want. So for instance, if you want a slime farm, you need to build it in a slime chunk. and you can build all the way down from bedrock all the way through up into the sky if you want. But mobs only spawn, well, slimes for instance only spawn from level 40 down to bedrock, the new bedrock level, which is minus 60 or so. Now let's get up here. Depending on your simulation distance, as I said, you need to calculate how far. So my AFK spot for this farm that I made here is right over there, which I'll show you guys now, which is 128 blocks from there to the bottom of the farm. Now I made actually two farms. There's one here and there's one all the way right on top, so we can have a look at the different rates. Now from my testing, I've done this on bedrock as well before. Mobs spawn more frequent and efficient lower in the world that you are. So if you can, whether you make a perimeter or not, dig a very big hole. If you don't have a perimeter which is clear from caves and mobs 128 blocks around you, then you need to spawn proof the caves. So that's lighting up, that's slabbing, leaves, whatever the case may be. You need to light up the area or completely remove everything. Now let me just quickly switch on my sphere. There we go. So now we just go out of here a bit. There you can see the green sphere is 128. The red sphere is also 128 blocks, but that is on the top farm. So I'll show you guys now. So if we go up in here, let's go, come on. This is a little bit slow, a bit faster. There we go. Okay. So here it's 128 blocks from this point down to the bottom of that farm. So my simulation distance is set for 8 chunks, which is 128 blocks. So if this was in the normal overworld, where there'd be caves around you or in a perimeter, only mobs will spawn in that farm that I've made. But obviously remember, you need to light up, spawn proof all the caves around you if you don't dig a perimeter. So let's quickly go down here and see. Let's quickly switch this off. Now obviously there's a glow squid also spawning here because we're in a very low part of the world, but just by looking at the way the mobs are dropping, they spawn pretty quick. And this is a very basic farm, no redstone, no luring the mobs to a certain place or anything like that. Let's quickly just open up here. Let's grab a block. Now you can see how many mobs are actually in here. Now all these mobs standing here take up the mob cap. So this is a very entry level farm, just to show there's no redstone or things to lure them or move them around, things like that. Usually this is the type of farm that you would build when you're starting a new world for the first time. So the mobs just spawn, they fall down here, go down the hole, and then we collect their drops at the bottom. Now the same farm right on top, but the spawn rates are way less. Now the big difference compared to Java and Bedrock is the rate at which mobs spawn. On Java, they spawn much quicker. Your mob caps and things stay the same. Your mob spawning in the overworld is divided into surface spawns and cave spawns. So you've got a certain limit of how many mobs can spawn obviously in your world, but also depending on whether you're playing multiplayer or on a server, things like that. So if you've got one person standing in an area, you can spawn 70 mobs. If you've got another player standing in right next to him, the cap for the mobs will still stay 70, but if he moves away, let's say 200 blocks away or 300 blocks away, then he'll get a mob cap of 70 and you have a mob cap of 70. Now when it comes to building a mob farm, we just talk about a general mob farm like this. You can do something like this to start off with, or you can use, how would I say, things to attract or scare the mob. For instance, creepers are afraid of cats and skeletons are afraid of dogs. So if you include that in your farm, you get a lot of videos on YouTube with creeper farms where they use cats to scare the creeper away. So as soon as the creeper sees the cat, he runs away, falls down, you get his drops. Same with skeletons and dogs. And some, how would I say, mobs are attracted to other mobs. For instance, zombies are attracted to villagers. You get your slimes, which are attracted to iron golems, and the wither skeleton is attracted to piglins. So when you build farms, you can incorporate that mob in order to attract the other one to increase your rates. But you need to also remember certain mobs require a certain amount of space to spawn. For instance, skeletons and zombies are 2 blocks tall, so they need to have a 2-block gap in order to spawn, and spiders require at least 4 blocks area to spawn. So if nothing is blocking them, some people use, let's say, fences or walls in order to block spider spawns in certain farms. And creepers are only about 1.8 blocks tall. That's why people put trapdoors on their spawning platforms above where the mob spawns, so only that certain mob, in this case creepers, can spawn. One of the other conditions for certain mobs to spawn, for example, guardians only spawn in a ocean monument. So you get a bounding box for that structure. So for instance, with the ocean monument, from the base of the monument, not including the legs, the pillars at the bottom, to the top point of the monument, they will only spawn in that gap. And wither skeletons only spawn in nether fortresses. Let's quickly go have a look. This might take a while. I might have to fast forward a bit. Okay, now we are at the top farm. This is basically right on top of the world, around about 250, I think. So this is more or less the old build level limit, but you can go higher. If we look here now at the rate, if you remember looking at the bottom farm, the mobs were falling every 1 or 2 seconds. You had a mob falling, and you could see the spawn area was pretty full. But now we've been here a couple of seconds already, maybe 20 seconds, and we haven't had a mob spawn. That's just to show that mobs do spawn more frequent. There, look how many mobs is in here. There you can see the difference between building a mob farm high up in the sky or building it as low as possible. So it's always better to build your farm way down. So if I turn on the spawning sphere, as you can see here, we're nowhere near the other mob farm, so no other mobs can spawn except for the ones here, the AFK spot. So it's 128 blocks up and 128 blocks down. Mobs spawn much quicker the lower down to bedrock you build. Let's go and take the quick way down. So the one main question that people were inquiring about is, where do I build my farm? So there is clear indication that mobs will spawn much quicker the lower down you build. This drops is basically just from standing here a while. There wasn't a lot in here when I started here. So remember to build as low as possible. And depending whether you want to dig a very big perimeter or not, you got to mob proof everything. So quickly go down. Hello, Mr. Slime. You decide to spawn here on my blocks. So your important things to remember: a minimum of 24, 25 blocks away from your spawning platforms where your mobs will spawn, a 0 light level, and build as low as possible. So remember to check out the other video links. I'll put in the description for the other 2 videos so you guys can see more detail about also with mob spawning and simulation distance. And any further questions or anything, let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you guys again. Thanks for watching, guys. Cheers.